Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls Golden, what if, whatever you want to call me. And I'm back with a brand new what if. What if Momoshiki was reincarnated as Deku? And shout out to my thumbnail editor. I believe on Discord it's simply Beluga, but he actually was in the what if YouTube scene for a while, but then took a break. He actually does my thumbnails for me, and actually he did this thumbnail and wrote the script for me, so huge shout out to him. He wanted me to narrate this for him, so I mean, he's done all this for me. I might as well hand it to him, and it's free content for me as well. It's a win-win for both of us. He wants to see it narrated, he wants and then I also need content, so I don't mind at all. I love doing stuff like this. And yeah, I mean, that's basically the biggest thing I wanted to say, that this is all his writing. None of this is my writing. It's all his writing, but I got full permission to actually use this. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time, and we are gonna get right into part one of what if Momoshiki was reincarnated as Deku. Quick little note, Izuku actually will be called Momoshiki during this narration, just a little heads up. Okay, let's get right into the story. Let's get it. We pick up in the battle between the son of the 7th Hokage, Boruto Uzumaki, and Momoshiki Otsutsuki. After a short taijutsu battle, the Otsutsuki and Sasuke Uchiha, which resulted in the Otsutsuki's hand Rinnegan dojutsu being destroyed, Boruto Uzumaki attacked him with his shadow clones, which Momoshiki easily destroyed. That was until Boruto came with a massive Rasengan, which managed to overpower Momoshiki's own attack and sent Momoshiki spiraling into the atmosphere, being absorbed by the mass of the weaponized chakra before exploding and destroying the Otsutsuki. Momoshiki pushed all his remaining power against the Rasengan. Despite his overwhelmingly godly power, he had simply been overpowered by many vermin before him, putting their powers together. Kaguya's betrayal had truly spelt doom for their clan. That damn brat! I won't die here! Momoshiki grits his teeth and began to prepare to place a karma seal on the brat who had done this to him. Before he was able to actually manifest his chakra, the Rasengan exploded in a brilliant and violent flash, completely obliterating him. Momoshiki felt his soul and chakra leaving the physical realm, and Momoshiki accepted the disgrace of defeat he had suffered at the hands of Kaguya's descendants. How shameful this was for the Otsutsuki to be defeated by lesser beings, although Momoshiki had come to slightly respect their power, intuition, and persistence, which led to his defeat. Perhaps humanity wasn't as weak as he made them out to be. He thought this, and his body and chakra floated to the afterlife. He felt a pull, similar to his time-space dojutsu, but far different at the same time. It was strong, almost like a black hole, and it dragged him in. Like the gates of hell wrapping chains around him, Momoshiki was almost powerless to resist the pull of the force until it was too late. Momoshiki, before he knew it, he was thrusted into another unknown place. This place, however, was dark and warm, unlike before. Momoshiki also felt different. His body no longer possessed the immense amount of chakra of an Otsutsuki. His Byakugan was currently dormant, and he could not open his eyes. What? Where am I? He thought. Little known to the Otsutsuki, a woman laid in a hospital bed with her husband at her side, awaiting a doctor's arrival. Suddenly, the doctor opened the door, and a doctor stepped through with a piece of paper in hand, ready to read the contents. Miss Midoriya, congratulations, the test came back positive. You are pregnant, the doctor said in a stoic voice. Inko and her husband Hisashi jumped for joy at the doctor's words. I'm gonna be a mother! I'm gonna be a dad! Both parents hugged each other, crying into each other's shoulders. Meanwhile, Momoshiki was being bounced around in a lot of confusion as he still tried to inspect his new body. It was small and hard to move. It did not respond well to commands, and he was still barely able to formulate any thoughts. 9 months then passed. Screams were heard all outside the hospital room as Inko Midoriya was now in labor. At her side was her husband holding her hand, and calling for her to push was the same doctor as before. Momoshiki, over the 9 months, had slowly begun to forget who he truly was. At parts of himself became lost in his developing human mind, who could not possess his thousands of year-old memories of his Otsutsuki life. However, for the first time, he felt movement, as if again pushed from his darkness. However, this time he was greeted with a face of a human man with a surgical mask, who stared down with awe at the baby before him. The child had pale white skin, blank, almost white pupils, and small horns on his head. Momoshiki was cold, wet. The touch of the humans felt foreign and yet welcoming. He tried to speak out, but all that came was screams and cries. Crying arguably more than her baby was Inko Midoriya was ecstatic to see her child as she held him. "Izuku, my Izuku!" However, the father was less ecstatic as he saw the appearance of his son, which caused him to suspect his wife was cheating. The doctors explained that it was most likely due to a mutation quirk and there was no need to be worried. However, the father, much to his wife's dismay, demanded there be a DNA test to confirm. Inko looked sad that her husband did not trust her and reluctantly agreed. Momoshiki had resisted with all his might being held, but was utterly powerless as he passed on to the woman who held him. The Otsutsuki did not know what the feeling was, but he felt attached to the woman, and being in her arms made him feel an unnatural feeling for him, happiness. That's when the humans started talking, and he was well versed in all forms of communication, but somehow he could not recall any of the words they spoke, nor could he remember how to speak any of their languages. Suddenly, the masked man pulled the baby Momoshiki away from his mother, which he instinctively tried to grab to the woman once again. Then his arm was pulled out, and a needle was stuck in his arm, causing the worst pain Momoshiki has ever felt. Momoshiki began basically to think, "I will slaughter you." Oh, wait, this is nice. After being patched up, Momoshiki was given back to his mother, who held him closely, causing the baby to cry and begin to fall asleep. The DNA test came back positive, with Hisashi being the father of the child. "Inko, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for suspecting everything. My love." "It's okay, I forgive you. We're all family now after all." The family hugged and cried waterfalls. Even Momoshiki cried, even though he didn't exactly understand why he was crying, while the doctor simply, the doctor's sweat just simply dropped off his face. 2 years later, Momoshiki had almost completely forgotten the Otsutsuki he was in his previous life. Only bits and pieces remained of the old Otsutsuki, such as his personality and pride. He was a prideful kid who refused to play with other children who did not do the things he did or show themselves as equal to him. We then cut to the first time Momoshiki walks, finding his legs at 2 years old, and he walked around and managed to get it down relatively fast, walking like an adult within a few months, much to his parents' amazement. He also had a bad habit of getting on top of items to look down on people. That was until the age of 4 when Momoshiki met a new boy named Katsuki Bakugo. Before this, Momoshiki had been in the best in every single one of his age groups. He'd learned everything almost instantly and performed tasks with the best result of his age. He could even hold very strong conversation with adults. However, this kid, Momoshiki, had by this point forgot all about his past, but the pride that remained in him was damaged as the kid challenged everything Momoshiki held in pride. He managed to cook better than him, have better toys than him, have more friends in kindergarten than him, and was even able to match Momoshiki in violent outbursts. One incident in kindergarten, leaving the kids with bruises and scrapes all over, had the staff intervene, pulling the boys apart while both of them panted. Bakugo had made fun of Momoshiki's horns, and Momoshiki called his hair an explosion of ugliness. After a while, and having their parents called, they were put in front of each other and forced to apologize. However, this resulted in an intense stare down in which instead of apologizing, they both put their hands out and gave a firm handshake, showing respect and friendship. The staff and mothers sweat drop at this alone. At the age of 5, Momoshiki and Bakugo walk through the playground woods as they pretend that Bakugo was a general and Momoshiki was the second general leading the troops from the back. Although Momoshiki hated being behind Bakugo, he had fairly lost in rock, paper, scissors, so he took his defeat. That was until the bridge. As Bakugo and his friend stepped over the bridge, it basically began to crack, and Bakugo began to fall. For Momoshiki, it had seemed like time had slowed down. The fall wasn't far, and he wouldn't get much except a bruise. However, he did not know that, and for some reason, he felt the need to protect the only boy he could call his friend. Suddenly, the 5-year-old Momoshiki felt a flashback, flying through the air and lifting up boulders with ease. Back to the present, Momoshiki felt an unknown power circle through his body. It felt like this power was only a smidge of what was truly there, but it was enough. As if on instinct, Momoshiki dashed forward past all the kids in a burst of speed, jumping past the bridge and grabbing Bakugo mid-air, landing with Bakugo on the other side. "You idiot! Why did you save me? I mean, you could have gotten hurt." "I mean, perhaps. You shouldn't have been falling and making me save you. How pathetic." Momoshiki and Bakugo smiled at each other as they both got up and the other kids came to check if they were okay. "Wait a minute. Did you just unlock your quirk?" Bakugo screamed at Momoshiki in excitement, causing him to reel back at the sudden outburst. He thought about it for a moment, and he knew inside that it wasn't a quirk, but he couldn't deny it either. The day at the quirk doctor, Momoshiki sat bored in his chair, and he basically tried to use his quote-unquote quirk, or as he knew it as chakra. Although the reason as to why he knew that his own power was lost to him. As for the doctor's office, he wanted to leave as they've been sitting there for hours. The doctor came back with a solemn face, although it wasn't for the boy. "I'm terribly sorry on the wait. We've been conducting multiple tests and cannot figure out your quirk. By all our results, you are actually quirkless. Yet, there's another gene within you that we've never seen before. And well, your appearance seemed to indicate a quirk. We can send the results to another lab if you, desire." "That will not be necessary. I know that I have a power, and I don't need your tests to prove that." "Izuku, don't be so rude. It's alright, doctor. If he's alright without it, then I am too." "Well, very well. I will sign your release forms right away." What a headache, thought the doctor. Age 7, Momoshiki found his first admiration of the person known as All Might. He was strong, and the strongest around, and everyone admired him, and he could defeat anyone he desired. His Otsutsuki genes did not like anyone looking down on him, causing him to become a sarcastic kid who would occasionally insult and belittle those who did not meet his standards. Thus, his dream of entering UA and defeating All Might was born. At age 12, Momoshiki had yet to unlock his power again. Since that day 7 years ago, he could never bring that power out. There would be those with quirks who'd make fun of him, but yet Momoshiki was never able to truly retaliate with anything other than words, as Bakugo would end up saving him. He hated that, but respected the boy as his only friend, and the greatest treasure he held besides his parents. Momoshiki had quickly learned the basically fragile life of humans not too long ago. His father had passed away from cancer forming in his brain. He saw the man he admired so much deteriorate so much until he eventually passed away, leaving him with his mother. Momoshiki's pride would not let him lose her, and thus he became almost more overprotective of his mother than his mother of him, resulting in some comical moments of arguing. That was until one day, as Inko and Momoshiki went across the street, Momoshiki made sure to check both sides to ensure no cars would be going through, and then walked with his mother, so she laughed and walked in front of him. Just then, they heard a screech as cars whose brakes had gone out had cut the red light and was heading toward Inko. Momoshiki in that instant felt time slow down once again. His normal eyes, he wouldn't have been able to see the car coming, but for some reason he felt some strain on his eyes. Suddenly, he could see everything around him, and through this for a long mile, and he could see the car. In a burst of speed and chakra, Momoshiki grabbed his mother and pulled her to the other side of the road as the car sped past and crashed into a street light as cops surrounded. His mother looked at her son. Her heart had stopped when she saw the car coming towards her, but before she could even react, Izuku had pushed her to the other side of the road, saving her life. As she looked toward Izuku, she saw veins around his eyes, as if he was straining them, and his pupils were lightly lighter than before. "Izuku, your eyes!" Momoshiki began to think. The Byakugan? Momoshiki then begins to respond to his mother. "It's called the Byakugan, mother." Age 15, Momoshiki was in class like every other day, preparing for the same old lesson. Ever since unlocking his Byakugan, he had completely excelled in every class. Definitely not because of cheating or anything like that. His pride had also shot up with his new powers. He no longer needed Bakugo's protection, as his eyes allowed him to find a person's weak spot and leave them completely immobile with a single punch. This day, however, was different. Today we will be going over your career aptitude tests. Forget about that. I know you already all want to become heroes. Much to Momoshiki's annoyance, the entire class erupted in cheers as they all used their quirks, causing a big ruckus. Momoshiki had grown to be quite antisocial. He hated socializing with those he viewed as beneath him, which was most people, as he'd never found an equal quite like Bakugo. So while Bakugo was loudmouth and spoke his mind, Momoshiki usually was quiet and kept to himself unless spoken to. "Don't lump me in with these losers, Teach. They'll be lucky to make it to be some sidekick to some D-lister." By us, I assume you meant Bakugo. Momoshiki flashed a cocky smile at Bakugo, who gave him a wink and a thumbs up. Yes, Bakugo. Don't you and Midoriya want to attend UA? You both definitely have the grades and quirks to get there. After the day had ended, Momoshiki had left early, as he felt quite annoyed at the attention he got after class. Bakugo was livid, as Izuku had forgotten that they were supposed to hang out at the arcade, yet he left without saying anything. However, this day Momoshiki had different plans. The UA entrance exam was within 10 months, and he knew that these eyes were only scratching the surface of his powers. He spent all his free time trying to unlock it, but nothing had seemed to work, as his powers seemed to be sealed away. It was at this time he walked down a back street where a building under construction was being made. He passed through here many times, but someone caught his senses as he activated his Byakugan. He saw a brown-haired girl with puffy cheeks and a natural blush holding metal bars up with her quirk, which seemed to make them weightless. However, unknown to her, there was a nail that had not been grinded down right where she was, and she was becoming extremely sick from carrying so many items with her quirk. Momoshiki's eyes widened when he realized what would happen, as the girl screamed in pain as the nail sunk into her foot, causing her to fall off the side of the building. She attempted to use her quirk on herself but was too exhausted to do so. Momoshiki saw this, and even with his speed, he wouldn't be able to grab her in time to save her. As if on instinct, though, like other times, he jumped after her, and the jump did not stop as he flew through the air at insane speeds, catching the girl bridal style. The girl opened her eyes, expecting to die. At the moment, from the nail in her foot to the sick pit in her stomach, the girl was definitely out of it. That's when she felt a warm embrace as she stopped falling. Looking at her savior, she saw his white eyes and skin with his silver hair that flew so beautifully in the wind as he looked down at her. "Are you an angel?" Immediately she realized she had blurted that out of nowhere. Coming into her clear mind, she immediately turned beaded red, even more than her natural blush allowed. On Momoshiki's face, his blush was not as easily hidden as he hadn't been expecting that, since he can remember nobody had ever complimented him on his appearance. People were either scared of him or thought he was a freak. Unfortunately, I'm not. Momoshiki then felt himself gliding to the ground as his eyes widened at what had happened. He just had flown and was currently floating himself. As they landed, Momoshiki called 911, and her parents came out looking extremely worried and scolding her as they told her to not be using her quirk on the job. By the time the parents turned around to thank the boy who'd save her, he had disappeared. Momoshiki, currently on top of a building, encompassed by his thoughts, he put all the pieces together. Every time he wanted to save someone, his powers would activate. First his chakra, which he still could not manage to control in his body, then his Byakugan, then his flight. So that's how it is. How troublesome. Momoshiki would spend the remaining time trying to pull out his remaining powers. His Byakugan allowed him to learn things extremely fast, and so he would often sit in martial arts classes and learn their techniques. He had also managed to learn how to levitate, not completely fly, as he could not get more than about 5 feet off the ground and was not able to move that fast. He also managed to learn how to channel chakra into points of his body, such as his fists, which he'd often use to enhance his punches when targeting at a weak spot, although the enhancement was only minuscule, but it was enough. One day, while searching for his next target for his training, he activated his Byakugan and saw the same girl he'd saved from the building. Truth be told, his heart stopped when he saw her. She had accompanied a part of his mind ever since he left her. He had no idea what it was, something about her, how weak she looked, and how she looked at him and calling him an angel. He assumed that meant he was beautiful. She was the only one who had ever called him anything other than a freak, other than his mother. Something instigated him to approach her. As he did, he saw something that shocked him, something that he was not used to seeing in people here besides his mother. She opened her wallet. Below her was a homeless beggar. She looked with a solemn look for a second as she emptied what she had in her wallet and gave it to the man, who looked extremely happy by her generosity. She flashed him with a smile and began walking away. With Momoshiki's Byakugan, he was able to see that she was hungry. He assumed that the money she had given to the beggar was for her lunch. He had so many questions, such as why would she give away her money to a total stranger like that? As Ochako Uraraka walked through the crowds of Japan, she came to a clearing as she planned to take the walk back home. Suddenly, she gave an eep as Momoshiki appeared in front of her at a comical speed and pointing at her. "You! Why would you do that? Why?" Ochako was rather shocked at him appearing out of nowhere and asking such a confusing question. Then it hit her, this boy in front of her. She recognized the eyes and the horn. There was no mistake, it was him. It's you! You saved my life that day. Why didn't you at least tell me your name? Ochako responded with her own question, which annoyed Momoshiki. Answer my question first. Why did you do that for that man? Oh, well, it was the right thing to do. I mean, he doesn't have any money and he was probably hungry. But that doesn't make sense. Why would you give your money away if you're going to be hungry yourself? Uraraka blushed at this, and she noticed his eyes as the Byakugan activated, looking at her. How did you know that? Momoshiki pointed to his eyes as the answer, confusing Uraraka as she swore his quirk was flying. Well, Momoshiki sighed, grabbing her arm and pulling her into the restaurant that was beside them. Hey! Momoshiki, without saying a word, pointed to a chair as if he commanded her to sit down. Okay. Momoshiki then called toward a waitress, which took their order. Wait, do you know I don't have money, right? Yes, I do. However, it's not wise to go hungry for a stranger. He said this while looking away with an unhideable blush on his cheeks. This whole feeling felt so off to him. He'd never felt it before, but as he even touched her arm when pulling her inside, he felt butterflies in his stomach, and it was truly the strangest feeling. Ochako giggled at him, and that he was a strange but funny guy. I guess you really are an angel, huh? Momoshiki blushed again at this comment as he sensed no deceit in that comment, and it was genuine compliment. Are you not appalled by my appearance? Of course not. I mean, I think you look really cool. Besides, those horns of yours are pretty cute. Speaking of which, what is your name? Momoshiki stuttered as he tried to respond, not expecting that cute part. He was secretly angry with himself as he felt disgraced allowing this woman to get this reaction out of him. Zuko Midoriya. Well, I'm Ochako Uraraka. It's nice to meet you. They finished their meal and went their separate ways, with Ochako thanking him for feeding her. Ochako begins to think, he seems odd, antisocial, and a little sheltered, but he seems like a nice guy. 9 months later, at the UA entrance exam, Momoshiki walked to the entrance of the exam, examining the school. And he was a bit let down, perhaps some old memories of his surfaced, about the grand palace of the Otsutsuki or something. But he began to walk in when he heard a voice call out to him, and he turned behind, seeing the brown-haired girl named Ochako running towards him. He looks at the girl, who looks excited to see him, only for her to trip on a rock and land in his arms as he catches her. Both of them look at each other with a blush before Ochako immediately backs up and starts rapidly stuttering, trying to say hello, but it ended up just being a jumbled mess of words, which with a good luck at the end, before she ran off into the building, leaving Momoshiki to basically drop a sweat. And then the exam goes a bit differently, with Momoshiki passing all the tests without any stuttering. He is not humiliated by Ida, and it goes much smoother than in canon. Finally, we arrive at the practical test. As all the students prepare to enter the testing grounds ahead, Momoshiki notices Uraraka preparing herself and looking nervous. He silently wishes her good luck and activates his Byakugan, scanning the entire testing field, and finds the best points of attack. As an over loudly and annoying President Mike screams, "Go, go, go, go!" Momoshiki takes off down an alleyway and destroys two robots by targeting and ripping out their cores using his Byakugan to precisely target their smallest weak points. By his examination, he could see that there were 2 pointers robots. He didn't waste any time and went to destroy many other robots using his chakra to enhance his punches and using his precise attacks to swiftly disable them. Above the testing ground, many of the teachers were wide-eyed and excited by what they saw, and from this group of students from Bakugo who swiftly flew around the battlefield blowing up robots at record speed, or the pale student who destroyed robots with the precision of a surgeon and master of martial arts. It seemed to be going well. The Byakugan gave Momoshiki a bigger advantage than everyone, as he could plan a perfect plan of movement to get the most amount of the robots and points. He held a comfortable 57 points by the time he felt a rumble and the students running past him. He saw the massive 0-pointer towering over him and the rest of the city. While all the other students ran and screamed, Momoshiki held a smile. This is the test he's been waiting for, something worthy of himself. He began to viciously search the robot with his Byakugan to find weak points, but noticed something struggling as his eyes went wide when he heard the scream. Ochaku Uraraka was trapped under some rubble, calling for help as she was in the path of the robot who was threatened to crush her. Suddenly, Momoshiki no longer viewed this as fun, as he immediately ran towards the girl, whose eyes lit up seeing him. He immediately determined the weak spot of the giant rubble and smashed it with his fist. Picking up the girl with one of his arms, he saw the robot was too close for him to properly escape, and it pulled back its massive arm and intending to punch and smash the two students. It came too fast, like a jet rocket in fact. The speed was too great for either one to dodge. Instinctively, the teachers panicked and tried to shut down the robot, but it was too late. The fist shockwave could be felt from a mile away as it struck the pair of students, causing the teachers' hearts to sink. However, before they realized it, what happened, the whole arm of the 0-pointer was obliterated. There stood Momoshiki, however. His facial expression was different. He looked cockier and held a sadistic smile on his face as he began to float upwards, with Uraraka still held close as she looked at him in awe. "You thought that would be enough to destroy me, you pathetic scrap metal? Feel the power of an Otsutsuki." Momoshiki then raised his free hand as a black orb formed in his hand, with smaller orbs of earth, fire, wind, lightning, and water surrounding it. He chuckled before putting his hand forward as the orbs flew at the robot, hitting it straight in the chest, causing it to instantly explode along with many of the buildings behind it. When it was done, Momoshiki flew down to the ground and closed his eyes and gasped like he'd just woken up from a dream. He dropped Uraraka, who fell to the ground with a thud. He opened his eyes and looked at her. Despite his white pupils, she could read that he was scared. He fell over while the shocked Uraraka checked on him. He was unconscious, but okay physically. She then looked over at the destruction caused by his attack. The 0-pointer who threatened to crush her moments ago was in pieces that scatters everywhere for miles. "Just who are you?" she asked in a bit of a fearful tone. And that is the end of part 1 of this What If. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, and leave down any suggestions you have for future what ifs in the future. Big shout out to my editor, my thumbnail editor, my editor in general for this video. Big ups for the script. I appreciate it, my brother. And if you enjoyed, yeah, like I said, please leave a like and subscribe. And everyone listening, have an amazing day. Later.
I don't wanna waste what's left.